So these are the operations which are exposed. So here in our case, we have just one operation. If you see this operation here. So what there are actually, if you see this is one a request, automatically it sends a request. It creates a request object in the, under this operation. So what does this mean? That this is the request to this conversion rate object. So if you just double click it, this is a window in which you can see the request and the response. So let us try to understand what it means. So you know that all the SOAP based web services, they create a SOAP envelope. So here we can see that it's a SOAP envelope which has been created, and then it's going to send the SOAP envelope to the server, and the response is going to be received on the right hand panel. So it's a very simple idea to understand. So this side is, left side is the request which is being sent, and right side would be the response which would be received. So there are two options here, XML, and we have raw request also. And let us try to read the information what it has. So in our case there is no header because it's a free web service, so we don't have any authentication as such. So we have a body in which we have few parameters. So as we know that there are two messages. So this is from currency and to currency. So in from currency, let us type AUD, and in to currency, let us type INR. Okay, and then if you see this green button, so these green button means it's going to submit the request, and if I just hover my mouse over it, it says submit request to specified endpoints. So we have just one endpoint, we can add a new endpoint. So let us try to run this. So when I run that, you can see on the right panel the response is being received. Again, it's a SOAP envelope which says the conversion rate, this is the type, and the result 54.2967, right? So this is the result. So we have given a response and the result is being received. So this is a simple request. So are we actually doing any kind of testing? So one more thing, SOAP UI is used to test web services. So you can automate things. So right now what I'm doing, I am just doing a manual testing. Manual testing means all this SOAP header and everything is there. I'm just manually giving some parameters and then passing that information onto the web server and receiving the response. So I can change the parameters. Let's say I make it USD. And then USD, this current amount is 52. So I am doing some kind of, you can say, manual testing. So not exactly we are creating the test cases. We are not automating it. So let's see how to automate it. Okay. Okay. So click on this currency converter and say generate test suite, or generate test suite, and give a name to this test suite. So for this API testing, and again we have to apply some kind of testing technique. So we can do equivalence partitioning, or we can do valid invalid. So let us make a test suite for valid test, and then we can create a test suite for invalid as well. So I would say valid test suite. Okay. Right. So here in we have created a valid test suite. If you say there is a drop down here, now I can add my test cases. So already when I create a test suite, automatically creates a test case, and in each test case we can add test steps. So one of the test step which is already being added is the request. So we can, there are different kinds of steps which we can add a test request which is already added here. Then we have Groovy script. So I'll tell you what is Groovy script. Script means like in QTP, let's say you are recording and running the actions, and correspondingly there in expert view you see the script generated. So the environment in which SOAP UI is run is Java. So SOAP UI is actually creating Java request or using a Java API to send the request to the server. So it is actually using my JVM to send the request. And Groovy is nothing, it's you can say it's a superset of Java. It's a scripting language which again uses Java APIs only. So you can actually manipulate your request. You can do parameterization, you can do data driven testing using Groovy script. So the script can be used for other purposes, for logging purpose or like conditionally running your test cases. So script can be useful in many cases. Then we have properties. We'll see what is properties. Then we can put a delay. For example, there are two methods which are exposed. So for every step I want to put some kind of delay. So you can use a delay step also. Then if you are creating a REST test request, then you can send an HTTP. Then we have mock request also, and manual and a JDBC request also. So we'll see all of these one by one. So first thing, like we know, we have seen how to run a raw request just by actually typing in here various parameters, typing it here and then running it, and it will use the default endpoint which is shown above. Okay. Now let us say I want to parameterize these two values so that it takes the values from a file or something. So how can I do that? I would add here, add properties, and let's say I give here the name as currency properties and press OK. So here there are certain options. So if you see here, I can add a parameter. So property name, let's say I ask from currency, and I can add another as to currency. Okay. So I can give values also. So here I can give USD, and here I can give INR. Okay. So once I'm done with this, I can save this values to a file. So I can just go to any of my file. Let us create a folder. Okay, so it has saved two properties to this file. So you can just go there and browse. So you can see here these two properties have been saved. So you can always save the data from your test. Then tomorrow if you want to, let's say I want to change it. So instead of changing in the test, what you will do, you can simply go to that particular file, and let's say I change this to AUD and save it, and then load it from there. So I'll say currency, and let's say yes. Now you can say it has loaded from that particular file. So I can do this thing. So I have added one properties. So don't you think that this properties should be a step before this request? So I can just drag it and put it on top of this request. Now I have written the properties. Now I want to actually use this properties in my request. I want to replace this question mark with this these two properties. So how can I do that? For this thing, I am going to use another step called property transfer step. So if you see here, there is one property transfer step. Okay. So here we have two drop downs, source and target. Source means from where you want to read the properties, and target where you want to put the properties. So I'm going to add two transfers. So there would be one transfer for each parameter. Since we have two parameters, there would be two transfers. So I would say first from currency, and the source would be a property file, so currency properties, and the property is a from currency, and the target would be your conversion rate and request. Okay, so here you have to actually mention the XPath. So if you can see XPath target in target property. So first let me tell you what is an XPath. So XPath is nothing but path to a particular element in a XML document. So for that you have to declare the namespace and you can go to the WSDL and see what the namespace is there. Okay, so here the namespace, if you see, is webservices.x.net. So I'm just copying it. Okay. Okay, so this is the namespace, web control C, and I'll put it here. Okay, now after you declare the namespace, so it should be converted, and then you have to give the XPath. So if you see the request, the XPath from currency, it would be, let me just copy this thing and let me write the XPath. Okay, so after doing this, so if you see, when I am running it, it is showing me the transfer. So it says in the bottom panel from currency AUD. So AUD, it has read from that properties which we have written here, and it is transferring it to this particular element. So it has found this element and it has transferred it here. Okay. So if you see here, it has automatically transferred here. I am not doing this. It is being transferred using this property transfer step. So I'm also putting it before the actual conversion. Now we have three steps involved here. We have done the created the properties, we have done the transfer, and then we are sending the request. So but now there is a catch here. We have just transferred one property, we have to do another property transfer. So I'll add another property. We have to do the to currency also. To currency, okay. Again, the source is currency properties, and property here I'll choose to currency. The target is conversion rate only, and the property for this is again request, and again I have to declare the namespace. So I'll just copy this namespace from here. And then I'll give the XPath. So XPath for to currency is this thing. So this double slashes front slash means that it's going to find that this particular element in the XML document, and then it's going to replace the value or the text for that particular element by this property. So again, let us run this transfer, and it you can see here to currency has also been transferred here. Okay. Okay, so we have created 3 steps. Now let us run our test case. So to run it, simply if you double click it, if you see this thing, this green button, it says run this test case. If I press this button, it's automatically finished. Green means finished. And if you see here all the steps, first step was to load that property from that file, and then to save it to a particular file. And step 2 was transferring from currency onto currency, and third step was actually executing and showing the results. So this is our test case log which was generated here, and with the 3 test cases. So here I have created just one test case, conversion rate test case. I can create any other test case also. So I can write here new test case. So conversion rate test case 2 I can write, and again I can add the steps here, do the property transfer, give the conversions, and I'm done. Okay, so let us see what are the other steps we can add here. Okay, so I can put a delay of, let's say here automatically it's 1000 milliseconds. So I want a delay between let's say these 2 steps as 1000 milliseconds for one reason. And then what else? I can do a JDBC request also. So let us do a JDBC request. So JDBC request means Java database connectivity. So it could be possible that you have to, once you are done with your web services. So web services just nothing but it's an application. So it's quite possible that your application is changing some values in the database, and then you have to authenticate that you have to do the data validation also, as you do data validation in QTP or any other testing tools. So this is also a functional testing tool, but it is API testing, or you can say web application testing functionality tool. So I want to validate that a particular value in the database has been updated. So how can I do that? I can make a JDBC request, but I have to configure the driver and the connection string. So for making a JDBC request, the driver, let's say on this machine I don't have Oracle installed, otherwise I could have shown you. Here you have to mention the driver. So it would be Oracle JDBC Oracle driver, and the connection string is again oracle.jdbc.thin, and you don't have to actually remember the connection string. It depends on what is the username, password, and the server on which it is hosted. So let me just find out the connection string. So you can simply Google JDBC connection string. Yeah. So this is the format, JDBC Oracle Thin. JDBC Oracle Thin, and my host here, if you have Oracle host on your machine, you can write local host, and by default the port on which Oracle runs is 1521, so you can write the port also 1521. And if you have Oracle Express Edition installed, then write sit as XE, and then you have to write your username and password also. So username, let's say some username, and then password. So this is the actual username and password you would be using. Okay, just like this. Okay, right? So then you have to give the SQL query. So I can give some SQL query. Let's say select employee ID from I'm just writing a dummy query, so you can do authentication in any form from employees where department ID is equal to 50. So this kind of query you would be writing here, and then just testing the connection, and then you need to run the request. So whatever the results are there, you can authenticate here. So if you use the step as part of your test case, then automatically this is going to generate the result here. Okay. So this is one of the things. You can try it at your end if you have Oracle installed on your machines. Then we have something called a manual test step also. So manual test step means that while you are running an or testing a web service, there are certain things which cannot be automated. One very simple example is that like this. Let's say that I'm working on a banking application, right? So I am using a web service which actually authenticates a user for the credit card. So for a payment system, I am using a web service, and if there is, let's say I have done some transaction on that credit card, automatically the user of that credit card, the owner of that credit card, receive a email notification that this particular amount has been charged on your credit card. So I cannot automate it. So if I have to test the web service, I need to know whether that particular owner has received that email or not. So this is a classic example like that everything cannot be automated. Some things you need to do manually. So you manually have to go and log in into that particular account, email account, and check whether you have received that email or not. So there can be certain manual test steps while your test cases. So in manual test step, you need to write the steps you want to add. So let's say I want to add the description which I have recently said. Check email notification for the credit card user. And then the expected result, let's say the user has received an email stating the amount charged on the credit card. Okay. So this is a manual step which I have added here. Okay. And which I will be using doing manually, and then my result would be passed or failed depending on what I have done here. Okay, so this is one of the things which we can do. Then we can do some more steps also. Let's see what else we can do. We can do conditional goto. What does conditional goto means? Conditional goto means that let me add one condition. Okay, so conditional goto means, let's say I want first test case to be something and the second test case to be something. So I can write, let's say, for my request. So where is my request? Conversion rate is my request. And I'm sending this, giving an XPath expression as to currency. Okay, so here what is happening, there is just one request. So if I want to transfer or see that whether first request has been done and then second request needs to be done, then I'll be using conditional goto. So if I have two requests here, one conversion, let me add just one more request. So this is again, actually it's a duplicate, but let me just add this and let me just put it somewhere here. And now I can do a conditional goto. So it actually creates a relationship between two requests from the previous request, and since there is no response from the previous request, that's why it's giving the error. But if there is some response from this, then it's going to actually go and do this request also. So it's this step is used to create relationship between any two subsequent requests. Okay. And mostly you won't be using this one, because I would prefer you to add different requests rather than creating relationships. But sometimes it is helpful if you have number of operations. So generally you have 2-3 operations exposed, and I'll explain you the sample project also. Then what else? What other steps do we have? We can create a direct HTTP request. So you don't want a SOAP request. You want a simple HTTP request using a get or post method. So you can add that request also. So herein it's going to ask you for the endpoint. Like endpoint is again nothing but the URL to that particular request. And then if there are any parameters for its, let's say if it's a get request, then there might be some query strings. So you can give those parameters here, and you can choose, let's say there is some request, some abc.com, and the parameters are abc.com. And the service is some service.html. dot let's say PHP, and there is some parameter 1. So you can write parameters here also, or you can actually write parameters here also. You can add parameters here. So if you write parameters here, param1 is equal to value, and say extract parameters, so it's going to automatically extract the parameters and write the values. And you can send this as a get, post, put, delete. So these are all the methods, HTTP methods, which can be used to send the request. So you can add an HTTP request also. Then you can do REST also. So REST I will be taking in the next class. Then we can have a mock request also. Mock response means let's say that you have the WSDL. So assuming, what is a mock request or mock service? So let's say that you are the service owner. So service owner also needs to test the service, right? So what they do, that it is still under production. That means the whole development has is not completed. There is no final release, but the format of that WSDL is completed. So WSDL is completed. So even with the WSDL and no real application, you can create and test the service. So you are creating a mock service against some WSDL. But you won't be able to run this because there is no actual application which is existing. So still it's like you can do it's like saying that you are doing some kind of testing in advance, right? So this is called mock service or mock response. Okay, and then what else? Then we have Groovy script, as I told you. So this is here, and you would be writing Groovy code. So since you are not aware of Java, so I won't be writing anything here. But you can see here, you can create a log, context, or test runner variable. So you can define, you can write some kind of code here, right? So diff is used to define a variable. So you can write, there is a message context variable also. You can access all these test steps through test runner. So I can write here test run is equal to test runner dot test, and here if I give the name of any test, I can access let's say this currency properties. So I can access this, and I can access all the properties related to this step. So I can run this step, I can access the parameters of this step. So I can do all the things from the code, right? So Groovy script is like adding a code inside the inside your test steps. Okay. Okay, and I think we have covered most of it. You won't be using AMF request, right? So these are the various test steps which can be added to a test case. So you can write a valid test case. Similarly, I can create another invalid test suite also. So I can write here new test suite, and I say right here invalid test suite. Okay, and again in invalid I can add test case. So I would write new test case, invalid to currency. Okay, and then I have to add the test step. I will add a test step here. First I will create a test request. So I will try, I can give any name, conversion rate, and the operation is again the conversion rate only. So here my test step is invalid to currency, so I can write a property transfer. I can simply just copy, clone test step, and target would be currency converter, and test suite is this. Let me just clone this one. So I'm just creating a copy of this into this. So target will be this, and the test suite, test case is this one. And okay, so you can see here the copy of currency. You can rename it. So I would write the invalid currency properties. And now I want to clone this property transfer. So again I can say clone test step, and target will be invalid, and press OK. Okay, and then you can just open it and change the values. So I want to make it invalid, so invalid to currency. So instead of INR, I am write let's say INP, and in copy from, I would say invalid currency properties, and from currency this is just the same, and for to currency I would say again invalid to currency, right? So after I'm done with this, this conversion rate would be my third step. First would be creating the properties, then transferring the properties, and then running it. Okay, and we can test. Let us run this test. Let's see, the test failed. So let's see why the test failed. So the property transferred was fine. No, the properties were fine, but there was some error in the property transfer. So let's see what was the error in the property transfer. From currency is missing. It's a missing target property. Okay, so here I have to use this and this one. Okay, now it is fine. Let us do for the other one also. Okay, and let me check the transfer. Now it is fine. So let us check the and do the transfer here. Now let's see what is the error. Is it still running? Okay, so there is some exception which is coming up. It says test case failed, And if I just see the transfer here, so you can see here there is some SOAP fault which has been raised. So the reason for SOAP fault was, say, it was unable to read request and some invalid operation exception. So since the operation was invalid, so it gave some SOAP fault. So far we have seen that we are creating the test case, but are we actually asserting anything? So just like in QTP, we create some checkpoints that there has to be some actual output, or there has to be some expected output and which needs to be compared. So we haven't done those kind of assertions here. So how do we add assertions? So assertions are to be added on the request. So let's say I have to do some kind of assertion here. In my valid test suite, there is one, this is my actual request, and now if you see here, there is in bottom panel, there is some assertions. So let's see what are the various assertions I can do. So first is property content. So I can assert for a particular, you can say the string. So let's say in this step, I want to assert that the result contains this 554.3013. So I can add here 54.3013. Okay. And press OK. Then I can make it again. You can see it is a green, that means this assertion has passed. Then I can use some not contains. For example, you are expecting that this text or string in the response is shouldn't be there, then you can search for that. Or you can do an XPath match. XPath match means you can give some XPath, let's say conversion rate result. I can give this XPath conversion rate result, and the expected result is here. Why is it not giving me? Okay, so we need to again declare the namespaces. Now I can okay, it says no XPath match. Wait to say conversion rate result. It should give conversion rate response allow wildcards, no namespace. Conversion. Okay, let me see why it is not giving. It should give this XPath. Still it is saying some error. text is equal to 54.303. Exception, missing content. So there is this showing some exception. There is some error in this XPath, it says. Okay, now it is coming up. So it is not able to recognize conversion rate result for some reason, but it is able to recognize this, that the text contains this value, so you can do some this kind of assertion. And there are some more assertions which we can do. So this is these are property content assertions are on the values which are returning in the response. So it can be tag, it can be a text for the tag. So let us try to do an assertion on the tag. So let's say I want to find that this conversion rate result is there. So let us see if it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why it is not conversion rate response. So generally this is the way if you want to find a particular whether a tag is element is present or not. For some reason it is still saying false, but anyway it should have said true. And there are some more assertions which you can do. So this is the property content assertions. Then we have XQuery. XQuery is again a language which is used to query an XPath. So first you need to actually learn XPath and then you have to move on to XQuery. So I'm not taking an XQuery match here. Then we have certain codes. For example, I want whether there are certain HTTP code. If everything is okay, 200 is received. If the server is down, then 500 series of code is received. Or if it's a bad request, then 400 series. So here I want that it's a valid HTTP status. So I would add a valid. 200 is not acceptable list of status codes. So I am giving a valid HTTP status code. So in this response, the status is 200. And then we have, it's not a SOAP fault. So I can add this assertion also. Again, it's a green. It's not a SOAP fault. Okay. So all these assertions I am doing on valid request. Then you can do some assertions using a script also. And then you can do some response SLA. Response SLA means that how much time this request has taken. So let's say I want this, that assume that this response has been within let's say 250 milliseconds. So this was response time here. See, if it's 211 milliseconds. So that is the reason my assertion is valid. Had it been 200, then it would have failed. So it did not meet SLA 200 because there is actual was 211. So my assertion has failed. So for this case I am using this 250. Okay. So assertions are nothing, it's just analogous to checkpoints in QTP. Then we can have a SOAP fault, so we'll do that. If there are some web service addressing headers also, here we don't have any headers, so I'm not using this one. So there could be a web service which is authenticating the headers, so you can use those assertions also. Then JMS is used for this. JMS stands for Java Messaging Service. So if you are using JMS, then you will be using the assertions. And there was you can use the sensitive information exposure also. So it doesn't expose any sensitive information. That means you can add this one. Like if there are something which needs to be encrypted and which is not, then you can add those things here. You can add a token and describe it, then it's going to see whether that particular thing is there in response, and it is not encrypted, and it's going to fail. So I'm not using any of these assertions here. So this is one of the few assertions on this test case. So let's add some assertions in the other one also. So let's add few assertions here. So one is the SOAP response valid. So the response has been received, it has been processed, yes. Then we can add few more. Now I want here, because I am giving an invalid property, so I want it to be a SOAP fault. So I would be adding the assertion, it validates the SOAP fault. Yes, it's a SOAP fault. And what else? I want, let's say, some XPath match. Now here, let's see if I can use this one. Exists SOAP reason. Okay, so here see it is coming true. So what I am asserting that this particular element is present in my response. So I am expecting a SOAP fault, and the response should have SOAP reason also. So can you see this? The expected result is true. So I can have this assertions also. And again you can add SLA, that that's within 350 the response should come. So it took only 130 milliseconds, so again it's green. Okay, so these are and schema compliance also. So it validates according to the schema. So this is one of the interview questions, that how would you validate that the response and the request are according to WSDL. So you can do schema compliance also. And it's ask you for the WSDL against which it needs to validate. So you can automatically, it's the endpoint where the WSDL is being created. So you can use that. So these are the different types of assertions we can do. So I'm just writing a brief summary of the steps which need to be done to do web service testing. Okay. So steps to test SOAP based web service. Create new project, add WSDL location. Okay. Then create a test suite. And you can create test suite, like in a test suite you can divide the valid in cases and invalid. So I would, let's say, create a test suite for valid cases, valid test cases, then add a test case. Then in the test case, after you add a test case, or you can say create a test case, then add test steps. So in this one, you would be writing create properties, you can load properties from a properties file, or you can mention properties value in the editor. So you can do anything. Then do property transfer. To the property transfer from properties file. So herein you have created the properties. Now you want to transfer the properties to XML request, or you can say SOAP request. Okay. So to do this, you have to select So herein what you have to do, you have to select or add property transfer for each property. Select source as properties created above, created in the last step. Choose the corresponding property. Okay. Then select the target as a request as a request name, you can say, for example, conversion rate, and property as request. Then specify here the namespace and the XPath of the element where property needs to be transferred. Okay. Then after the property transfer, then create the SOAP request. Okay. So these are the 3 steps. And then after this, Then you have to run the test suite. Okay. Similarly, you can add more steps, test cases. Add more test cases, and then run the test suite. So with the SOAP UI, we can not only do the functional testing of the API, we can do some load testing and security testing also. So let us have a brief overview of how to create a load test. So right click and create a new load test. And if you see here, there are a couple of things which can be done. Okay, so there are threads. Threads means that how many processes which will be used. So more threads means the faster the process would be. Then there are some strategies. Strategies means that in what way. So what does load test actually mean? So load test means that you are simulating. See, not only one person is going to use your web service. Maybe there could be a couple of thousands people who are accessing that your web service, right? So if your web service is used by, let's say, I'm just using the same example, credit card authentication service example. So it might be used by Gap or by Macy's, by Amazon or some other online shopping website, right? So there are a couple of thousand people who are accessing your web service. So you want to see the performance, how it is performing under so many concurrent users, right? So you are trying to simulate the scenario or here in SOAP UI. So wherein you can actually give how many people that would be using. So this is limit means the total number of requests to run. So here I'm running 60 requests. So I'm not giving lot of requests because it is using my system resources and it's regular laptop. So I don't have a lot of memory or a lot of, the CPU is not very high end. So I am just limiting it to, let's say, 20 concurrent users, and I want 20 runs per thread. And then there are 5 threads, so let me just reduce it to 3. So there will be 3 processes which would be used to run this number of users. Then what does strategy mean? Strategy means, like in simple, that means consecutively this 20 people would be accessing the web service. Then we have a burst. Burst means in a certain fraction of a second the load would be increased. Similarly, thread and variance are also strategies which are used. So thread means first one thread would be used, then second thread would be used. So this is a way. Strategy simply means that how many threads would be used to simulate this number of users. So you can use any of these strategies. Randomly means, let's say that random is 0.5. That means whenever you are sending the request, 50% of the request will be sent in a particular way, and then 50% would be sent in a different way. So the random is 0.5, means half of it, 50%. Then you can do certain kind of assertions also here. There are certain load test assertions. See what maximum errors. If I say maximum errors, so means how many errors are allowed per step. So maybe it could be any step, or in let's say in request, I am allowing just 0.2% of errors. So here maybe I can reduce it to 10 errors. So there shouldn't be more than 10 errors. And you can add some more assertions also. So what is the maximum time every step can take? So it is saying that it shouldn't take more than 1000 milliseconds, and maximum errors which are allowed is should not be more than 10, and it can be applied to any of the test step. Let's say again the property transfer step, it shouldn't take. So these are certain assertions we can add some more. So this is TPS is threads per second. Then again maximum errors, let's say I don't want it to be more than 10, and let's make it on manual test step, and I'm not using manual test step, currency properties. Okay, and for all types of requests, see whether it is a load test or uh, a function test on API, you can use some script. So you can write a Groovy script, setup script, or some tear down script. So if you want to run a certain script, so scripts are used for sometimes for logging something. So you want to write down some kind of log that I am using, I'm running the test at this time by this user. So you can actually use the certain logging things, or you want to extract data from a file and do some load testing, then also you can use some setup and tear down script, but for that you need to learn Groovy script. Okay, so once you are done with this, you can run this test, start the test, and if you see it says one of the assertions have failed, so it has just stopped, and it has automatically ran it for 20 users, and you can see the minimum maximum average of all these tests. Then this is last count, threads per second, bytes which have been used. So for the HTTP request, there are more bytes which are used. So here I am not doing and sending any bytes over the web. So it is just a local transfer. That's the reason there are no bytes which have been transferred. Then errors, there is some error in HTTP request which says, and the rate. So this is actually a very basic load testing which can be done. The extensive load testing can be done using Load UI. So if you want to try, you can download Load UI and do some load testing there, right? So this is a very again very basic testing, and this is an average of whatever we have done. So if you just add it up, it's going to, this is the addition of everything. So you can see here, this is just the addition. Then we can do some security testing as well. So you can create a new security test. And you can, if there are any endpoints, or we don't have any credentials for the endpoint, and you can add certain security scans. And let me show you various security scans in the sample project. So there are a couple of them which have been written here. So here, see here, they have created a simple test suite. There are, we have here in just one operation. Here they have more than one operation. Here we have login, logout, search and buy. There are four operations or methods which are exposed by this service. And they have created test steps again, like properties, property transfer, so login and log out. So they have used this test steps, and this in this one they have used test steps like only login log out. Here they haven't done any property transfer, so I don't think it is of much use. Then simple login, simple search, so you can create test cases according to this also. And I'm just trying to find if there is any security test. Okay, so let us create one security test here only. Okay, so we need to add some security scans. Okay, properties. Okay. So here in there were no test steps, so there was not giving any security scans. Okay, so these are all the security tests will be run on this request only. So here if you see add security scan, so these are the boundary scan, cross-site scripting, custom scripting, fuzzing scan. So we can add any of these. So here we don't have to do a lot of things. So whatever it is, let's say I want to check this website or this request for cross-site scripting, I'll just use this and press OK. And I'm not using any parameters. So I'm not using any manual step. So it is done, and since I am not using any parameters, it says that cross-site scripting has been done. So similarly, you can add more security scans. You can use XML bombing or test property request XPath. Okay, so let's say I want the request to be where to currency. So I'm using to currency. So I'm using the scan, or you can say the parameter which to be used on which security has to be checked as to currency. Let me give one more. Currency, and here I will be writing again okay. So here you can do assertions, but I'm not doing any assertions. Okay, let me just run this one, and here also I can add the same parameters. So you can do the security test for any of the parameters depending upon what type of request you are sending. Okay, and strategy one by one or all at once. So you can do all at once. Any type of strategy you can do. Now write this. Okay. Here I have to do some assertions. Let's say response LA. Okay. So if you see here, no alerts, low alerts. So similarly, you can add more scans. You can again write security scan. Boundary scan means boundary values for the parameters. So what are this actually security scans? Means they are testing whether the particular parameters, they are testing for the particular parameters and scanning the value of those parameters for any security issues. So sometimes people can, through parameters, they can inject SQL, or they can do, XML bombing. That XML bombing is nothing but malformed XML embedded into original XML. And they can do, if there are some boundary values for the parameters, it will check for that. Then it can do XPath injection also. So since here we are using XPath to send the request, so a malformed, or you say a malicious XPath can be injected in case of a parameter. So it scans for this also. Let us do one XPath injection also. Again, we have to choose everything we have to choose it on the request. So if it's you can say if you want to do some security scanning on the username and password of the endpoint, then also you can use username and password, but we will be using only request, and we have only two parameters to be checked. So again, it's the same thing. Okay. And assertions you can hear. Okay, and run the test again. So you can see here there are no alerts. So had it been exposed to any of this security issues, it would have alert us. So you can see the security log and the test case log as well. So you can run both the things parallelly. So here it is doing functional testing as well as your security testing, right? So you have seen here using SOAP UI, we can do the functional testing of the web service. So it is also that called API testing also, and you can do load testing, a basic load testing. So you can simulate number of users and give those kind of requests to your web service provider. But you have to make sure that on the machine in which you are doing load UI has ample number of resources, so good CPU speed and a good memory. Then you can add a security test on the current steps which have been there in your test cases. So herein you can add different kinds of security scans, and you can read about these scans, fuzzing scan or invalid types. So invalid types means again you have to use the invalid type means you are you are giving invalid values of that particular parameter. So automatically it generates invalid values of those parameters and send the request according to that. So I'm just adding one, and here I have to assert that there is some SOAP fault. So, and it has to be an invalid HTTP status code, but it shouldn't be a HTTP status code, but it has to be valid only. The request should be processed. See here, these are the various types you can choose. You can even change the value. So these are the values which would be sent. So you can actually add a particular value, or you can change the value of this thing. So all these invalid types will be checked, and again you can run the request. Okay, and you can see here there are no alerts. So this is a robust, you can say, web service which with no security hunches, right? So you can say security testing. So here webservices.net. So I have this website and it is exposed through this method. So this method has two parameters, from currency and to currency. So I have to make sure that no malicious data is being sent through these parameters. So for this, like here I'm just testing through valid and invalid. So in security testing, I have to make sure that there is no XML being injected through this, so I can actually send some, let's say, some kind of, XML path, and which can actually change the behavior of this web service. So I have to make sure there is no SQL injection. So I have to make sure that it is validated against all invalid data types, right? So if I use it, it says it gives us an exception. Okay, so I have to test it for all the security testing. So that's the reason we do security testing in SOAP UI. And herein automatically it generates the invalid parameters for the value for those parameters. And you just have to just right click on this and say add security scan and choose the security scan you want to use. So let's say I want to use boundary scan. And you need to add the parameters on which this security scan you want to put. So here, since we have in request, we have two parameters only. So you have to mention the XPath for those two parameters. And here I can write from. So these are the only two parameters. So you want to do the security scan for both of them. Okay. And you can then do assertions. So you can do the assertion on the SLA, right? And then run the test. Okay. So if there are any security issues, there would be alerts here that that particular web service does not adhere to this or did not pass through this security test. So if you just see here, for every test there are some types. So in invalid it is going to test on all these values. In XPath injection, again it's going to use all these values. See, all these values are automatically created by SoapUI. If you want, you can add your own XPath injection values also, but it is actually a smart tool which is automatically doing all these things. Okay, and similarly in XBAL bombing also there are few. See here, there are so many XPaths which have been added, so you can add your own. In cross-site scripting also. So cross-site scripting, what does it mean? It injects the script tag, so it injects the JavaScript into your request, HTTP request, right? So you see here all the JavaScript alerts and all these things which it is using. You can add your own. Okay, so these are the various types of scans you can do. So you can easily do security scanning on your web service using SoapUI. Okay,